Hello and welcome to OnPoint. I'm Monica Trauzy. Joining me today is Dina Kruger, co-founder of Kruger Environmental Strategies and the former director of the Climate Change Division at US EPA. Dina, thanks for coming back on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Dina, on the same day that EPA signaled it would hold off until next year in announcing whether it will pursue methane emissions regulations, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo banned fracking in his state, citing health concerns. How much uncertainty currently exists in the natural gas sector?
Well, I think the decision by the state of New York to ban fracking is a very dramatic one and an important one, and sends a signal to the oil and gas companies that they're going to need to really make some changes to address some of these concerns if they're going to be able to to drill in places that don't have a lot of experience with it, and where the public in these communities along the Marcellus Shale are have already said they don't want it. So, I think it's not going to be something that will necessarily happen everywhere, but certainly to the extent as they move out of the oil patch and into places that don't have that kind of background in oil and gas drilling, they're going to have to be maybe a little bit more conciliatory to the public in terms of what needs to be done.
So what have you heard on why the administration has pushed the timeline of their announcement? Or what do you think the reasoning is?
I think what's going on is it's based on the strategy that was put out back in March. They're coordinating among a number of different agencies. There is a significant some significant issues that need to be worked through, and we're coming up on the Christmas holiday when a lot of people and senior leadership sort of looks to have a little bit of downtime, not be around the office sort of responding to these kinds of questions. So I think that it makes sense for the agency to do it, and to delay it, and they've said that they're going to do it in January, which will.
And so in January you would expect full steam ahead?
I would expect something to happen in January. I don't think that they're going to be able to push it back much farther than that.
This has to be really quite a balance for EPA, though, because considering the number of policies that are in place and in motion relating to natural gas, how careful does the agency need to be in keeping the regulations as workable for industry as possible?
Well, I think they will try to make those regulations as workable as they can. The big question that we have going forward is what type of a regulatory approach are they going to take? Are they going to sort of build on the 2012 regulation they did, which regulated VOCs, not methane, and the methane was a co-benefit? Will they go down that route, which is necessarily limited in terms of how much methane reduction they can get, because they can't really go beyond the processing plants to the downstream sources? Or will they actually change their approach and start regulating methane itself? In which case, they have a lot more sources that they can regulate, and they can get larger reductions.
And what do you think the best approach is?
Well, I think if you want to reduce methane emissions, the best approach is to regulate methane, because there's just an inherent limitation when you're only doing the VOCs to the parts of the system where VOCs are emitted. So that'd be my advice if they were if this is a methane strategy.
But does that help the United States stay strong then on energy security? Are companies then able to fully tap into the natural gas resources we have if methane is further regulated?
I don't think there's going to be a significant problem with the further regulation of methane for a couple of reasons. The first is that EPA has to make a proposal. They'll get stakeholder feedback, and they'll revise that proposal to reflect concerns or new information about costs or the implications on the industry. But secondly, methane is a product that is the product. Methane is natural gas, and many of these practices that the agency has been looking at through those white papers are actually things that pay for themselves fairly quickly. So this is not an area where you're looking at large capital expenditures of long-lived equipment to try to get the emissions to come down. It's something that's much more amenable, I think, to pragmatic regulation. And you're seeing that in the states already.
Right.
So,
And we're already seeing action on the state
Yeah.
and local level on both fracking and methane.
Yeah.
So then is the federal policy necessary? And if so, how much flexibility should be granted to the states in that policy?
I think a federal policy is necessary because it levels the playing field. You know, there are some very progressive states, Colorado, California, that have been moving out and showing that this can be done, and the companies in those states have been supportive of these actions, not fighting them. So I think that tells EPA that it can be done, and it can be done in a way that's not problematic, but it doesn't mean that every state is going to do it. I think in terms of your question about can the flexibility be provided, if they use the NSPS, it would be a similar approach to what's going on now with the Clean Power Plan, except that I think that actually regulating methane emissions is much less complicated than what's required to regulate the electric power sector. So EPA would do a new source, would have to propose new source requirements itself, and then go to emissions guidelines for the states.
How successful could a voluntary approach be?
Well, I expect there will be some kind of voluntary component of this strategy as well, because I don't have the sense that EPA is going to want to bite off a complete regulation from beginning to end of the gas system at this point, given everything else that they've got on their plate. So I think there will be a voluntary component, and it's not really clear yet what that's going to look like. They've proposed this Gas Star Gold, which is kind of an amped up voluntary program building on something that they've been doing previously, and it's not clear yet. They got a lot of feedback from industry on what they propose on that front as well recently, so I think it's not clear how exactly where that's gonna land.
All right, we'll end it there.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on the show. A lot to watch heading into January.
Certainly is. Thanks so much.
And thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.